نحمده سبحانه وتعالى حمد المعترفين بنعمائه العظيمة وآلائه الجسيمة. اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله، وإليك يرجع الأمر كله علانيته وسره، إنك على كل شيء قدير. لك العتبى يا ربنا حتى ترضى، ولا حول ولا قوة لنا إلا بك. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبد الله ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة، وجاهد في الله حق الجهاد حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وقائد الغر الميامين محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين، وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين، وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of heavens and earth, the provider, the cherisher, the sustainer, the bestower of bounties, the giver of gifts. I thank Allah for the blessings that He has granted us and our loved ones. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us deserving of those blessings. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to extend those blessings into every corner of our lives. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this beautiful day to send His blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, his family, his companions, their followers and students, and all men and women that walk in their footsteps. And I ask Allah to make each and every one of us among them. Allahumma ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I travel quite frequently to speak, and when you travel to a certain community, organized communities usually stand out right away with the way they treat their guest speakers. So sometimes, you go to the airport and they are so disorganized they don't tell you where the event is or where the masjid is or where the hotel is, and you have to make phone calls and text messages just to figure out the absolute basics. And other times communities are really, really organized and they put so much effort into showing hospitality to their guest speakers. And they usually assign one particular volunteer, a brother or a sister from that community, in order to receive the guest speaker at the airport, to make sure that they are welcome, to make sure that they are situated well at their hotel, to make sure that they are fed and they take you out for lunch and dinner. At the event itself, they shadow you, walking behind you, making sure that you don't need anything. SubhanAllah, that beautiful sense of hospitality. About a year ago, I was traveling somewhere, and this really simple, humble brother, very unassuming brother, skinny, short, in his 30s, met me at the airport and picked me up. Not very talkative, but extremely hospitable and generous, making sure that, I'm okay, making sure that, I don't need anything. And then he takes me to my hotel, and in the evening he comes and picks me up again, and he takes me to the event, and constantly just walking behind me, making sure that, I have what I need. But everywhere we went, and I stayed in that city for 2 days, everywhere we went, everywhere he took me, he had a very small backpack. Those backpacks that look like, the water backpacks that bikers use, they suck on water, right? But it wasn't like that. It was a small backpack, on his back, constantly, on his back. Everywhere we go, he has this backpack. So I got curious and I asked him, what's in that backpack? You take it with you everywhere. So he smiled, he unzipped the backpack, and he took a prayer rug out of the backpack. And it's one of those prayer rugs that has a little compass. Have you seen those? Yeah. So it's a prayer rug, sajjada. And he takes it everywhere, and it has a little compass, and he says, I want to make sure that I never have an excuse when it comes to salah. Because sometimes we give ourselves excuses. Oh, I'm not sure about the qibla, it's very cloudy. I'll wait until I get home. Oh, I don't know. I don't have a clean prayer rug to pray. I have my prayer rug with me not in the car, not in the trunk of the car. on my person everywhere I go, so that when it's prayer time, it's prayer time. I throw my prayer rug and I do my salah. I remember that brother from about a year and a half ago. I may not remember his name, but I remember that he stands out in my mind as this al-hirs al-salah. This brother is so keen about his 5 daily prayers that he walks around everywhere with a prayer rug. That is his legacy. And it's funny because when I was invited recently to that same community, I asked the brother from the masjid that invited me, and I said, remember that guy that you sent to pick me up from the airport? Can you send this same brother to pick me up from the airport this time? So he's like, what, the prayer rug brother? I said, yes, the prayer rug brother. Can you send the prayer rug brother? That is how he is known in his own community. The prayer rug brother. What a beautiful way to be known amongst people. What a beautiful way to be known amongst people. That you are so keen on your salah that you walk around with a sajjada, with a prayer rug. You know, janamaz, right? In Urdu they call it. Walking around with your prayer rug everywhere. That's his legacy. And I'm sure that when this person, inshallah, years from today, you know, he leaves this world, he will be known as the prayer rug brothers amongst the people that admired him and knew him the most. And I asked myself, when I leave the world, what legacy will I leave behind? And you should ask yourself the same question. When you leave the world, what legacy will, how will you be remembered around your family and your friends and the community and your colleagues and people that used to know you? How will you be remembered? And if you ask me, Imam, is it even important to leave a legacy or to be remembered? I tell you, absolutely. Listen to what the Quran says. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نُحْيِي الْمَوْتَ وَنَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُم. Allah says in the Quran, verily, we shall indeed bring the dead back to life, right? To stand judgment. It's a process of resurrection. We shall indeed bring the dead back to life. And we shall indeed record everything that they have done. All the deeds and the things that we've done and the things that we've said in this dunya. Sure, we all know that. That's going to be written, it's going to be recorded, and we will be held responsible for it, right? But then the ayah also says, and we shall also record all the traces of what they have left behind. Can you believe that? Not only that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will record our deeds, I mean that's a given, sure. But Allah Azza wa Jalla will also record the legacies that we have left behind. The impact of those deeds on the world after we have left. Ya Allah. I can control my deeds, but how can I control the things that I leave behind? Allah will record our deeds and our sayings and our doings, but He will also record our athar, the legacies that we leave in this world. How we are remembered, how we are mentioned. And every single one of you have heard this hadith before, because this ayah is a true reflection of a foundational notion in the deen. The Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنِ آدَمْ انْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. When the sons and the daughters of Adam die, all of their good, the record of deeds is sealed. That's it. Nothing is added to that record any longer, except for 3 things, right? Sadaqatun jari, a perpetual charity. You invest in a masjid or a school or a hospital that continues to benefit people years after you are gone. This will go and be added to your record after you die. Sadaqatun jariyah, أو علم ينتفع به, a knowledge that you leave in this world that will benefit people, benefit, not any kind of knowledge that benefits people. أو ولد صالح يدعو له. You leave a son or a daughter, a child in this world that will pray for you. So after we die, there is a legacy that we leave behind. The legacy of our children, the legacy of our knowledge, the legacy of our sadaqah, right? A brother asked me once, Imam, is wealth a legacy? Is wealth a legacy? You know, my sheikh used to say about mal. You know, the word for wealth in Arabic is mal, right? Why do they call wealth mal? You know the word mala in Arabic? What does it mean? To bend. right? They called wealth مال لأن المال يميل بالقلب عن الله عز وجل. لأن المال يميل بالقلب عن الله عز وجل. Wealth is a good thing if you use it right, but if you accumulate wealth and you allow that wealth to get into your heart, it will sway your heart away from Allah Azza wa Jal. Wealth is a dangerous thing. It's a good thing if it's used properly. I've always said on this pulpit, accumulate wealth the halal way, but don't let wealth sway your heart away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the brother asked me, is wealth a legacy? And I say, my shaykh used to say, إِمَّا أَن يَتْرُكَكَ الْمَالِ وَإِمَّا أَن تَتْرُكَهُ. It is either you will abandon your wealth when you die, or wealth will abandon you when you lose it. Right? There is no other way when you think about it. Because whatever it is that you have in your holding is temporary. Until an assigned time you leave this world, you have to part with your wealth. It's not yours anymore. Or you lose your wealth and it becomes somebody else's and it's still not yours anymore. How can wealth be a legacy? Money is not a legacy. Money is a thing that we use in this world to survive and to live happily. It is not the legacy. Having fun is not a legacy. Enjoying your life is not the legacy. You ask the brothers, why don't you come to the masjid? Allah, I work. I'm so busy with work. Really? That's your legacy in the world? That you helped some random company perfect a useless product and you helped them sell it and sell a lot of it? Really? That's your legacy. Wealth is not a legacy. You know what a legacy is? Athar, as the Quran says, a legacy is leaving good children that you have raised in this world. You go ahead and do whatever you want and consider yourself to be successful, but if your children are not good, righteous human beings that are raised well, it is all good for nothing. It is all good for nothing. I see brothers and their wives, families in our community, very sophisticated, very well educated. They own businesses and they drive really nice cars. But I look at their children and I'm like, subhanAllah. SubhanAllah. Kid, 9 years old, with a smartphone, fully exposed, no filter whatsoever. They can access the things that adults can access. Going on YouTube videos and God knows what else. What do you expect that child to become one day? You just magically, this child will become righteous? It's impossible. It's against the laws of physics. It's against the laws of physics. When you leave good children in this world, that is a legacy. When you have authored a good book that benefits people, that is a legacy. You leave knowledge behind, that is a legacy. You've had an impact on people's lives, that's a legacy. You alleviate pain, that's a legacy. A sister that goes and helps the refugees at a refugee camp, that's a legacy. A brother that walks around with a prayer rug on his back, that's a legacy. It's a legacy of honor. When you contribute to the masjid and build a masjid, 500 years later, your descendants can look at it and say, our great-grandfather contributed to this thing. That is a legacy. And with that same token, legacies can also be negative, right? There are people that leave a negative legacy. I attended a funeral service once, and there was this brother, from a particular community. I don't want to mention what that community is. A particular community in our Muslim community. And he came to the funeral service wearing a suit that has a really odd color. Have you seen those suits? They have like yellow and green and red. Right? Will you wear a suit like that? Most people would refrain from wearing a really flashy, weird colors, especially at a funeral. It's a Muslim brother, right? So I asked, out of curiosity, I shouldn't have asked. I swear. Sometimes you just ask about something and you regret even asking. So I asked him, this brother, he's dressed weird. Who comes to a funeral service wearing these weird colors? So the brother smiled and says, just don't worry about it. This brother owns one of the most popular strip clubs in downtown Sacramento. That's his legacy. When he dies, And we look at his children, oh, those are the kids of the brother that used to own a strip club. Oh, mashallah. Oh, they're very wealthy. Yeah, make no mistake about it, sure. But that's his legacy. Prophet ﷺ taught us in the Quran, مَنْ سَنَّ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ سُنَّةً سَيِّئَةً. If you establish a bad precedence, فَعَلَيْهِ وِزْرَهَا وَوِزْرَ مَنْ عَمِلَ بِهَا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. You will gain sins as a result of that precedence, and every single person that do it afterwards, that's your legacy, right? You will incur a sin for them as well. And that's why Rasulullah taught us that Qabil, the brother of Habil, he's dead like God knows how thousands of years ago, right? But every murder that is committed in this world goes back to his record. Why? لأنه جرأ الناس على القتل. He made it easy for people to commit murder because he was the very first murderer. You can leave a negative legacy, right? That's a choice. And some people leave no legacy at all. I go and attend events, especially funerals. I mean, that's especially funerals. And then I'm at the funeral service, and we just pray janazah and stuff like that. And I really cannot find anything to say about the deceased. I can't. One time, about a couple of weeks ago, the person that died used to own a liquor store. I don't know what to say. They asked me to say a khatira at the janazah. I don't know what to say that would be honest. So that's why I just speak about general things. I speak about lessons from death. But a legacy can also be a negative legacy. And I keep looking back at the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, because this is about how we are mentioned in the world after we die, brothers and sisters. Especially, I know that young people may not really think about the end of life. But those of us who are older, we need to think about this every single day. How will I be mentioned when I leave this world? How will my kids and my grandkids and people that I used to know and my neighbors and everybody, how will they mention me? Ibrahim alayhi salam used to turn his face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is mentioned in Surah Al-Saffat. He used to say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this beautiful, heart-wrenching dua, رَبِّ هَبْ لِي حُكْمًا وَأَلْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ. Lord, endow me with wisdom and make me one of the righteous. وَاجْعَلْ لِي لِسَانَ صِدْقٍ فِي الْآخِرِينَ. وَاجْعَلْ لِي لِسَانَ صِدْقٍ فِي الْآخِرِينَ. Make the mention of me in later times a true and honest reflection of who I am today as a human being. He's not just asking Allah to make him do the good deeds. He's saying, Lord, after I die, when people mention my name, make that mention a reflection of who I am. A reflection of who I am, and not some distorted image of who I am. Nothing exaggerated in piety, and nothing exaggerated in evil, just a true reflection of who I am as a human being and as a person. It is one thing to do the good deeds in this dunya, but making sure that your good deeds impact the world positively, that's a completely different story. It is actually what Allah meant in the Quran when He said, وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتُ خَيْرٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ. الْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتُ, the everlasting good deeds. What is the meaning of everlasting good deed? If I have 5 different choices, Shafi'i said this, and the Hanafis said that, and the Muslim Sunnis argue for this, and the Sufis say that, I need to ask myself, is that choice something that will leave a good legacy in the world or not? Because a good deed is defined by its impact. When you choose between halal and haram, you obviously choose something that is halal. But when you have multiple choices that are all halal, don't just follow your madhab blindly. Ask yourself which of the 5 choices will have a better impact on my community, on the future, on my children that will remember me. Oh, my dad used to adhere to the Hanafi madhab fanatically. Is that a legacy? That's not a legacy. That is far from a legacy. My dad used to decide on his actions that are all halal based on what impacts the community positively, so that it becomes al-baqiyat as-salihat, deeds that are everlastingly good. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us our sins and to establish us with firmness on His path, and to enable us to have positive legacies in this world, and to make our mention years after we die, a positive and true reflection of who we are. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands and speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the heart. ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وصلي وسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وقائد الغر المحجلين محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. Brothers and sisters, when you reach a certain age, you start thinking about yourself and your life, and you start thinking about end of life matters. I don't know what happens to us when we turn 40. Those of us who have some consciousness, when you are in your 40s, you need to start thinking of life a little bit different, because at this point, what is left is probably less than what has already passed. If you live, the Prophet ﷺ taught us that the average age in the Ummah is like 65. So when you're 40, that means you're, steadily approaching the end. And you need to start paying attention to what type of mention and memory am I leaving in this world? How is it that people will remember me? What legacy am I leaving behind? If I die today, what is the one most important thing that people will remember about me? It is not your house, it is not your car, it is not your wealth, it is not your 401ks, it is not the nice fancy suit that you used to wear. It is not your job, it is not your business. It's none of that. People will remember your sense of dignity and honor. They will remember your good word. They will remember that you used to be a forgiving person, that you used to be a compassionate human being. They will remember that you used to donate to your masjid. They will remember that you used to support the refugees and feed the homeless. They will remember that you used to counsel people. Oh, brother so-and-so, every time someone needed to move from one place to the other and move furniture, he always lent them his truck. They will remember that. But they will forget the make and model of your truck, I guarantee you that. They will forget. They will remember the act itself. They will remember the compassion in the act itself. And as someone who's already 42, I remind myself of this more, importantly than anyone. That I need to do today something that will leave me a good legacy in this world. And it's not about what I say, it's about what I do. And I wanted to give you an example of a great scholar that is less known amongst us, but well known among the Westerners, Western philosophers and Western scholars. He had so much impact on Western civilization and Western philosophy that he has a Western name by which he is known amongst, Western philosophers and thinkers. And this scholar's name, as we know him, is Abu al-Hasan Ali ibn Muhammad al-Mawardi. You heard of Imam al-Mawardi before? Abu al-Hasan Ali Muhammad, his name is Muhammad al-Mawardi, alayhi rahmatullah. Imam al-Mawardi died in the year 1058, and I just want to give you some depth so that you are able to relate. Put 2 to 2. 1058 of the Common Era. 1058 is the same year Imam Ghazali was born. 1058. Why is it that Imam Mawardi had such a tremendous impact on the West, on Western civilization? Because he is one of the earliest political thinkers to write a comprehensive treatise on politics that established a constitutional framework for power and for governance that is not dependent on usurpation and violence. He created a different kind of legitimacy for government that is based on law and not based on violence and power. Imam al-Mawardi Shafi'i, he was a jurist, he was a judge, he was a diplomat, but above all, he was a political thinker and philosopher. Imam al-Mawardi existed and died 500 years before Machiavelli. 600 years before Thomas Hobbes. He lived and died 150 years before Thomas Aquinas. All these great Western philosophers, right, that the West keeps talking about. If you actually go on Wikipedia, there is one of the Wikipedia pages that has a comprehensive list of Western philosophers. All Western names, Western names, Western names, Western names, all the way up to perhaps the 1200s. But before the 1200s, it is mostly Muslim names. Ibn Sina, Al-Farabi, Al-Mawardi, all these great scholars that contributed to Western civilization. Now here's something, when we speak about legacies, Imam al-Mawardi is technically one of the founders of Western political thought. But here's the thing. He did not publish a single book in his lifetime. You know his great book, Al-Ahkam al-Sultaniyya, the ordinances of government, the widely translated book that is taught at every Western university and political science programs, was not published in his lifetime. Because he was always concerned that whatever it is I write is done for my ego and not to benefit the ummah. And if I leave it behind, it'll be a bad legacy that will hurt me when I'm in my grave. So he was always hesitant to publish his books. And he hid all the manuscripts of his books somewhere and he locked it with a key. When he was on his deathbed, he had one of his students come sit next to him. And he held his hand while he was taking his last breath. And he said, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I have all my books and manuscripts hidden somewhere, and here's the key. And he keeps clenching his student's hand, and he says, when I die, and this will happen in a few moments, and my fist hardens and clenches further upon your fist, I want you to know that Allah has rejected all my deeds. And you take every single book I ever wrote, and you dump it in the Tigris River. Don't let any human being see it. And if I let go of your hands, you know rigor mortis, when people die, you clinch. Most people. If you're holding something, it becomes very difficult to let it go. So he used the most difficult test. I will be holding your hand. And if I continue to clench harder, that means my deeds have not been accepted. And I want you to dump my books in the Tigris River. Nahr Dijla. However, if I let go of your hand, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted my deeds. And I want you to publish my books. And we are very, very thankful that he let go. Because otherwise, the great legacy of Imam Mawardi would have not reached us. I don't remember if Imam Mawardi was wealthy or not. I don't remember if he lived in the nicest house. He was Kurdish, by the way. I don't remember if he lived in the nicest house in Basra. I don't remember if he was married to one woman or 4 women. I don't care. I don't remember if Imam Mawardi used to wear a really, really nice suit and go on very expensive vacations. I don't know any of that. What I know is the legacy of ilm, the knowledge that he has left us and the world, and that's how we remember him. How will you be remembered after you leave this world? How will people mention your name? Will they mention your name positively, and you have a good legacy, or will they mention your name negatively, or you will be completely and utterly forgotten, like you never existed? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this day to accept our good deeds and to forgive us our sins and to establish us with firmness on His path. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us aware of the legacies that we leave behind in this world. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us work hard, to leave a positive legacy that will honor our mention after we've passed, that will honor our children after we're gone. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us sincerity of intentions in the things that we do and the things that we say. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us aware of the sure and certain steps that we are taking towards the hereafter. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us positively conscious of death. I ask Allah to accept our beloved family members and friends that have left this world. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept them into the highest level of Jannah. I ask Allah to make their mention a true and positive reflection of who they were. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this day to forgive us our sins and our trespasses as we forgive others for theirs. I ask Allah to cleanse our hearts from evil, from jealousy and hatred, and to replace that with compassion, empathy, and good. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathered us here in this shape and form, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gather all of us in His Jannah. Allahumma ameen. اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. تقبل منا يا ربنا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك الخير كله عاجله وآجله، ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله. اللهم اجعل لنا آثارا طيبة في هذه الدنيا. اللهم يا ربنا اجعل لنا لسان صدق في الآخرين. اللهم يا ربنا أعنا على تربية أولادنا وبناتنا. اللهم اجعلهم قرة أعين لنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم يا ربنا اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اجعلنا عبادا لك صالحين، لك شكارين، إليك مخبتين منيبين، عليك متوكلين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في المشارق والمغارب، أبدلهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا، يعبدونك لا يشركون بك شيئا. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات، المسلمين والمسلمات، الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا